Hello again, Dwayne Brummett here with Ali Alberigo, SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Ali, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you as well, Dwayne. I know we're a little delayed because we had some technical difficulties, which is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is actually showing up on Facebook, but it's being recorded. I'll throw it back up there. I know it's going on YouTube, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I have it on Facebook. I don't see it technically on there as of this moment, although it's.
I had a little thing that came up and said I didn't have permission to do it. So when I got hacked on Facebook or whatever, and then I just fixed everything in this I don't know what 20-minute time span since we should have been on. I had to fix it. So I'll still have to go in and get myself permission to post on our own wall, which is kind of goofy, but whatever.
Yeah, isn't it weird? I know that it looks to be live right now on YouTube though. So that's good. Yeah.
And then I'll just take the video and pop it in there. That won't be a big deal. So today we've got Mr. Lance Trippet. He has been, he's from Academy Kings. And Lance, are you on East Coast or West Coast?
East Coast. I'm out in Maryland.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought.
Okay, awesome. And before we get into the topic, I do have to tell you that based upon one of the podcasts that we did, I don't know, a year ago, maybe with you, I switched over and I'm doing weekly billing.
Nice.
So it is a lot easier to catch up with those people that missed 1 week.
Yep.
Right. And then not to mention, obviously, what is it? Is it 2.4 that you're getting more?
4.3.
4.3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically every month has 0.3 extra billing cycles in it.
Yeah. So
amazing.
Love it.
So why don't you, for maybe some of our listeners haven't heard that. So I know we have another topic or two that we want to cover with you, but can you just quickly for the listeners go over that just so they understand? Because it might be totally foreign to them.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the kind of profit killers that I talk about that I was planning on talking about today.
Good.
But to keep it really simple is, I told the story before on here about how we came upon it with my grandfather or whatever, doing weekly billing for his rental houses. But to keep it real simple is there's, in reality, instead of having 12 months in the year, when you add up all the weeks, 52 weeks, you actually get one extra month per year that you are, that you're actually billing for or that you are actually paying for typically.
Right.
So the benefits to those weekly billings is that you pick up that extra month of revenue. So, a lot of your bills, whether it be rent, utilities, typically payroll is going to be one of your bigger expenses. Those are done by the class or by the hour. So, those bills we're paying one extra month per year. And typically what happens is we're going in our pocket, taking profit that we would have made, and we're paying that extra month out of that profit. So a simple calculation for this, and I don't know exactly where your clients are or your people on their podcast, but just say, using numbers, 10,000 a month revenue. If you were doing 10,000 a month over that 12 months, you'd make 120,000. And just say your expenses out of that 10,000 was about 7,500. That's going to put you at around 97,000 a year in expenses, 120 in profit or in revenue. So you're around $22,000 in profit at the end of that year, just by making that one simple switch to weekly. Now what happens is you generate an extra 10,000. So now you're making 130,000, say, per year in revenue. Your expenses will stay the same. So you're still at that 97,000 in expenses, but now you bring home, instead of 22,000, you're bringing home 32,000 and change. So that one thing can increase your profit on this example 45%.
That's amazing. And it sounds like a lot of work to me, though, like to do it on a weekly basis. But I know Dwayne did it, and it really isn't, right? And you were saying it's not, but it just sounds like, okay, now everyone's billing every week. I got to check their balances every week versus every month. And but actually in our Spark software, it automatically, when they're delinquent, it lets them know and so on. So it's not that big of a deal, I guess.
And obviously if you were, maybe using some other kind of billing system where you're manually putting it in every week,
right?
Like that would maybe be a big lift. But, typically we have automated software. So the softwares are doing that automatically. The reports can run pretty much automatically. So really what we do is just every Friday, we look in the system, we see who's missed, we give them a call or send them a text. And typically it's like, oh, my card went bad or it expired, and you get them right back on there.
And yeah, our software automatically tracks that, so we wouldn't even really have to touch it. Now, do you find though that there is what is the perception that people have with the, either against or for the weekly billing? Is it more easy? Is it easier for the clients? I mean,
typically it is, because most people are getting paid like either weekly if they're like in construction or something like that, or bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks. So really all we're doing is setting those things up to kind of follow that system, right? Usually we do everybody weekly. You can do the same thing either every 2 weeks or even every 28 days if you wanted to stay on a monthly kind of cycle.
Right.
Just 1 month, they'll be charged basically 2 times in that month. But you could do either way. I prefer weekly just because, again, it's, for us, we typically charge about $59 a week. If they came through like one of our kind of programs, our 6-week program, it typically is going to drop it down to $49 a week. So, the idea of like, hey, it's $49 a week or it's $210 a month, $49 just sounds way better.
I think it is an easier sell, but it also kind of lets you know if somebody goes, well, $39 a week, it's easier for me to do, once a month, to me, that tells me they don't know how to budget their money.
Yeah.
That they can't have $39 a week or $59 a week or $49 a week in their account. Right.
Yep. Yeah. And if depending on your sales process and stuff like that, some of the times during our sales process, we actually figure out what their bad habits are. So like, are they spending money on fast food? Are they spending money on beer, cigarettes, wine, like whatever? How much is that? And then, man, you just don't go to Starbucks. You want $49 a week. That's 3 trips to Starbucks for some people. So fast food, all of these kind of things. And typically, we're saying like, you're going to be a healthier person here. You're going to start having better eating habits. You're not going to want to go to fast food because we're going to teach you how to meal prep. We're going to teach you how to set up the meals properly. So, depending if the money is a problem, which typically it's not, but if it was, then it's, you just address that issue.
Yeah, that's great though. I think I'm almost sold on this. So I'm going to probably follow your guys' lead on that. I've been dragging my feet and haven't done it, but I might do the next 5 clients and see what they say and see how it goes.
I was a little scared, and I don't know why I was scared, but I was a little scared. I mean, when you've been doing something for so many years and quote unquote the industry does it that way, it is a little scary. But I came to the conclusion personally that I like the percentage of making more money by the end of the year. I liked that it was a lot easier to follow up on those individuals, and that it was a smaller price point to get them enrolled in the beginning anyways, because them coming up with, an exorbitant amount of money in the beginning to do their first month and their down payment and all that it just lowered the bar, in my opinion, even though in the end I'm making more money.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting though? I mean, you think about this, like, I think like these technologies, right? Like this little thing could just at the snap of a finger, that one decision could make you an extra 10, 20,000 or more, depending on the size of your school. Right. And it's really not like a money grab. It's not something that that it's some scam or gimmick. It's just simply saying, hey, pay weekly, versus monthly. And people are probably better off with that because it is a lower fee, and that way you can get people in. And I guess somebody who's struggling to pay tuition, they see it as a smaller point of entry as well. And then they weekly just come up with that.
And the other thing too, real quickly, was I was just reminded about, Dan Kennedy, and what he always said is, whatever everybody's doing in your industry, do the exact opposite. Yeah. And I was like, duh. So that's what put me over the edge with it. I was like, okay, Dan Kennedy said to do it. I mean, not this specifically, but really in a roundabout way, he said to do it.
Yep.
So how long did it take you, Dwayne, to transfer people? Because you have like 270 something.
I just did the new people. Everybody else stays where they're at. They'll eventually in 5 years be done, and then everybody else by that time will be weekly.
So all the new people that sign up and renewals and things like that are renewing on memberships, you just switch them over to weekly billing?
Yeah, and then the other thing I thought of too, and Lance, I don't even know if you what your belief is on this, but obviously, this was big in the industry at a time where, you do the paid in fulls, all those other things. Well, I don't even feel like I have to do the paid in fulls because I'm already making more money, and I'm not borrowing from the future to hope that they're going to stay.
Yeah.
And I do like pay in fulls. Like I think you can generate a lot of revenue. The problem with pay in fulls typically that I see is people don't have a good acquisition process.
Right.
So they cannibalize their recurring revenue.
Right.
So if you have a good acquisition process and like, hey, for the last 10 months, 12 months, 24 months, I've gotten 30 new students a month on average, I can take 3, 4, or 5 of them and do a pay in full, and it doesn't affect anything because I know I can replace them, the next time.
Yeah, I've always done in my school back when I did pay in fulls a 5-to-1 ratio. Like if last month I signed up 5 people, I could cash out and do a pay in full on 1 this month, 10 and 2 this month, just so that I never went down in monthly billing revenue. So if people are listening, just be careful. Like Lance said, I know people have paid in full themselves out of business, that they just took the money and they're like, hey, I'll buy that car or pay for that advertising campaign. Now they have nothing. And their income is dropped because whatever they chose to do didn't work or it was too costly to them. So that's interesting, though. I appreciate this knowledge because I think that a lot of listeners, it's just a simple bump. And it's almost like something that's a hidden gem where people, it doesn't take much effort. It's not it's not a new fandangled kind of thing, right? Like it's nothing fancy. It's just, okay, let's switch to a weekly revenue model. That's great.
I think simple is usually the best. So now I jumped right into this, but you want to set up the topic that we're talking to Lance today, Ali?
We already did, right? We jumped right in, kind of just like right off the bat. We were a little late, and we will release this later on Facebook. So apologies to the people for whatever our social media mishap is with our.
Most of our listeners are through the podcast anyway. So
yeah, exactly. But we do. I mean, we're live on YouTube now and have a bunch of listeners there, so that's cool. But right now, so we wanted to talk about the topic. Basically, was profit killers, right? So are there any other things that you think about that a school owner? Mistakes that they possibly make that will hurt their business or kill their profitability?
I think so. So I kind of put together 4 that I think are probably the biggest ones that I see most of the time.
Right.
So I kind of put 4 of those together. We kind of hit on one already, and that was that monthly versus weekly billing.
Right.
I think that's a big profit killer, and we can dig more into that if we want to, or we can kind of move on to some of the other ones.
Yeah. So do you find though that, and it's as a coach and a consultant in the industry, it's almost like you see the same thing over and over and over again, right? And the same mistakes being made and the same beliefs that people have, like, oh, that doesn't work in my area, or I could never do that in my school. So do you find, like, is there 1 or 2 things that you would tell an owner that maybe has that mindset, like how to break out of that type of mentality?
So the mindset is always a big thing, especially, really in anything you do in your life, whether it's, trying to achieve a goal, whether it's running a business, even in martial arts. Like if you're trying to do a competition or something, we're always like, oh, like, am I going to lose? Am I going to look silly? Like, it's always a mindset issue that really is going to take you to that next level.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I kind of talk about or preach about in a way, I guess, is what I call like the breadcrumb fallacy. So the idea of that is like, just think about bread, right? Like when and especially say a business owner, when we open up a business and say we're the only jiu-jitsu school around, or we're the only martial arts school around, like we kind of say like we got the whole loaf of bread, right? Like everybody has to come to us if they want that. But then like somebody else opens up and it's like, oh man, they took half my loaf of bread. And then, 2 more, 3 more, 5 more open up. And now we're down, like we're thinking that, man, I only have the crumbs left. Like everybody's getting everybody and I only have the crumbs. And in reality, there's so much people, there's so much abundance, there's so much money out there that like you only need a very small slice of that bread or crumb of that bread to actually get results.
Yeah.
So go ahead. If you
No, I'm just agreeing with you.
Yeah. So what I look at is I look at the whole market, right? And just say for gyms, martial arts schools, gymnastics, like whatever, there's thousands and thousands of people in any market that are pretty much joining a program every month.
Right.
And, some of them are coming through SEO. Some of them are coming through Google My Business. Some are Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, like referrals, direct mail. I mean, there's like, 50 different ways that people are coming into your facility, walk by traffic. And so in reality, we need to be good at one of those, and we need to get 30 to 50 students out of that 1,000 every month.
Right.
So if we can dominate kind of one platform or one thing, we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this.
Yeah.
But in reality, they're not dominating any of those. They're not good at any of those.
Yeah.
And then they won't get good results. So it's like, if it's me, I'm going to say, let's focus on one thing. I'm going to figure it out, whether I get a coach, whether I pay for a program, whether I just Google search it and YouTube video it. I'm going to try to figure out one platform, and I'm just going to try to dominate that one platform. And I think that's one of the biggest problems is just that abundance versus kind of growth mindset, that there isn't enough out there for everybody.
That literally is our society, right? Like,
Yep.
right? Like we're always starving for what we don't have, when the reality is if the world worked the right way, everyone would have everything everywhere, right? There's
Yep.
no real scarcity. I mean, there's so much abundance out there. I find that interesting. Like I just Googled my township, and my exact town that my school is in, there's like 221 households.
Yeah.
Just in my town. And then it's bordered like literally within a quarter mile of, like, I'm East Islip, then I have Islip Terrace. So there's like this whole entire central Islip around me. So I think I'm about like 30 to 30,000 households. Like, so there's enough room for 100 schools to have, people. And, we're not going to have everyone training in the martial arts, but if I do my job right, I'm going to reach out to that segment of my population to be able to get students. So you're right, 100%.
Well, and it reminds me you of like what Grant Cardone says. There's no lack of money,
right?
Although I can't do his raspy voice. No lack of money, whatever he does. But yeah, there isn't, and it is a mindset. And I can go back personally and in my journey, if you will, through entrepreneurship. There were times that it really took a mental shift, because there was times that I dove into Dan Kennedy, and one of the things that he talked about was that basically I needed to look in the mirror and go, yes, Mrs. Jones, it's $169 a month,
right?
And just say that with a straight face, and then learn how to not justify it,
right?
Just say it, but that took a lot of courage for me to do that. In fact, and this is part of the topic, I think. Even if I get to that portion where I'm like believing in charging those prices, if you have a spouse that because there was a time that my wife was like, I can't believe you're charging those prices. She goes, I'm embarrassed to tell people when they ask me. I said, just tell them you don't know, let them talk to me. I go, but you're not embarrassed to spend the money.
No, I mean, it's all about relevance, isn't it? Like, we will spend, like, I'm really frugal when it comes to my wife and daughter. They love to buy clothes, and always like, there's a new package on my doorstep, right? But I'm kind of like, I bust their chops, but then I'm like, oh, I just did the Grant Cardone real estate thing. It was $500 for, online. I'm like, wow, I find a value in that. And I'm like, well, they find a value in what they want, right? So I think that we tend to, and a lot of school owners make this mistake. We tend to try to spend the people's money, or look at what they're willing to spend it from our perspective, right? Yep. Meanwhile, they might be, you have no idea. Maybe they're multimillionaires, right? Maybe they have a trust fund that's worth millions, right? Yep. So I think that we should be really careful with shooting ourselves in the foot when it comes to that. I think that a lot of us hurt ourselves by trying to guess whether we're worth it. We're way worth. I mean, geez, we're worth way more than what we could ever charge.
Well, don't you think that your business never outgrows you? So if you don't decide to grow, your business cannot grow. And I just mean like growth in so many different areas. So growth in mindset, growth in skill, growth in management, growth in leadership. Your school will not outgrow you. And in fact, if you don't continue to grow, some of the people that you're raising up will outgrow you and leave.
Right. Yeah.
No, you will basically be the bottleneck of your business.
Right.
You will 100% be the bottleneck of the business.
Yeah.
So like you said, if you don't grow, if you don't continue to learn, if you don't continue to reach higher kind of expectations for yourself, then your business will never grow beyond that.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? That's
so
like
I was gonna say, what's another one?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, he has the next thing he wanted, which kind of almost segues right in, is the 3 ways to grow a business, right? That's really another, it's on top.
Yeah, that's kind of on topic. I mean, I guess profit wise, one of the other ones I would kind of look at is just the unlimited model versus like a 2-day or 3-day a week kind of program.
Right.
Again, like, forever it's been, hey, unlimited classes. And a lot of it was, again, that mindset of scarcity, right? Like, I have to, I think I'm giving them more because I'm saying, hey, you get unlimited classes.
Right.
Where in reality, like, unlimited anything is typically cheap, like Netflix, $19 or I don't know how much Netflix is, but unlimited movies, whatever, for a cheap price. You look at, like, you're in New York, Peter Luger, like, you go to Peter Luger's, it's $150 for a steak, and you just get the steak. And then if you want mashed potatoes or broccoli, you're paying extra for all of these things, right? But you go to Golden Corral, like a buffet, and you're paying $9, and you can have as much steak, as much ice cream. But it's like the idea of unlimited is really a commodity, and we want to get away. We want our schools to get away from being a commodity. We want to be, a one-off. We want to be a program or a product that is not a commoditized product.
Right.
So kind of the ways that you want to do that is really selling, say, a 2-day-a-week membership or a 3-day-a-week membership. You can still charge the same amount of money. It also will allow you, like, kind of going back to the profit thing. The problem that I see, like, I talk to hundreds of school owners a month, and what happens almost every time is, hey, my school's at capacity, but I'm not making any money.
Right.
What I need to do is I need to get a bigger space.
Right.
So then they go out, they get a bigger space, they get more expenses, more classes, and then they fill it up again because their price point's wrong, and they're still not making any profit. So it's this cycle that keeps going. I need a bigger space. I need a bigger space.
Yeah.
And reality is, like, if you do a 2-day-a-week membership or a 3-day-a-week membership, you can double the capacity of your facility and make twice as much money off of a small facility. So, hey, Monday, you get to pick Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Which one works for your schedule?
Yeah. I always tell school owners, and I have a school owner that I'm coaching right now that has a 2-day-a-week program and a 3-day-a-week program, but he doesn't track his attendance. So he doesn't know whether they're all coming 3 days a week. So I said, so by having those two options really doesn't help you. But I remember I had in my school, when I was crowded in one particular class, I did an A-B schedule. Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday was a makeup, and Saturday was a makeup by appointment only. So I was able to take that time slot and literally double the capacity because I was limiting who could come to that particular time slot on certain days. So everyone wants to show up on a Friday. You can't, you have to be either an A or a B, and you make that choice. And then we had the makeup. So that's genius for what you're saying. Is just very, very important for everyone to listen to. They're not going to be at capacity, and they don't have to, that typical old school model. Bigger is better. When I get more, bigger is better. And then they're always making about the same profit level, right? Even with the new 200 students, because they had to buy the new facility, get more instructors, add more classes. It's just a vicious cycle.
Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of one that I always kind of recommend, especially if someone's coming in new or brand new school that they're trying to open up. Always recommend 2-day or 3-day week schedule.
Now, do you track?
Unlimited.
Do you track those people's attendance so it'll flag them if they did come in 3 days, and then you set them down and say, hey, it looks like
we use Zen Planner, and everybody gets checked in. So we have a front desk. We have 2 iPads there. They check in themselves, and then we have an iPad at each. We have 2 different mat areas. Each mat location has one, and the coach will check and just make sure everybody's checked into the system. And that way, if a flag comes up, it's going to say, like, hey, they didn't pay, or they need a contract signed, or some kind of flag may pop up. And then obviously we don't say anything to them in class, pull them aside afterwards, and you just address whatever the issue may be.
Great. And that's
give them a pink slip, and they got to go to the office.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to upgrade, because people may be like, wow, I do want to come 3 days a week. My schedule opened up. Okay, let's get you into the next program.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, you make that unlimited membership something special. So, hey, only people that do a lifetime membership for $12,000 get access unlimited per week or whatever per month.
Right.
So now, like, the real kind of benefit to that unlimited program, you put a big price tag on it.
Are you still doing those? Are you doing lifetime memberships in your school?
Yeah, we do. Like, we call it a lifetime, but it's like a 5-year kind of thing. And then you just have to do like a $1 after that per year to keep it active.
I years ago used to do a black belt membership up until black belt, right? And it was like whatever, $5 grand, $6 grand in cash up front or whatever it was at the time. And I would have people bring in envelopes of cash. And then, sometimes it benefited me because the kid was really good and got to their black belt quick. And then they started paying again. But other times it took them 7, 8 years and they got tuition for a very small amount of money. But that influx of cash coming in was a big help to me to develop my school and buy my building and all that other stuff.
And really knowing your KPIs, like your data, is really important, because if you can see on average, so the industry average is about 10 months for a martial arts student.
Yeah.
If you can see on average, just say using that average, hey, I'm a 10-month average lifetime value of a person or time frame.
Okay.
And just say my thing is $100. So my lifetime value is $1,000 for a member. And those aren't my numbers. I'm just kind of giving you easy numbers to kind of do.
Yeah.
But the idea is, like, if I can get $1,200 for a pay in full for a year, I'm making that extra 2 months, which would be 12 months. So I'm raising it from 10 to 12, and I'm getting the extra $200 on the average student. Like, it may not, that person may stay longer than that. They may quit sooner. But the idea is, like, what that does is it instantly increases that lifetime value, and it increases my retention. So knowing those data points is important. So again, if I know that my lifetime value is, say, $5,000 for a person, and I can get $12,000 for a lifetime membership, man, I'll do that all day.
Yep.
So do you, speaking of that too, though, do you think the industry, based on your industry, and you're mainly with BJJ schools, jiu-jitsu schools that you're working with, or you do everybody?
We do everybody. Like, I'm a jiu-jitsu school, but we do jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, we have karate, we have Krav Maga.
So do you feel the average is now 10 months, the average student, based on your research? Because
I still think it's
14 to 16. That was when
I think it is around 10 months. So again, this is like another one of these kind of things that I like to talk about. We call it tree line, but basically just think about, again, an average school that has 100 students. And they're like, man, I've been at 100 students for the last 6 months.
Right.
But I have great retention. No, you don't. Like, your retention sucks. You just don't track it. And nobody knows their retention because they don't track it.
Right.
So again, but they're like, hey, I get 10 new people a month, but I'm stuck at 100. The reason that you're stuck at 100 is because you're losing 10 people a month. So your churn rate or fallout is 10%.
Yeah.
So, like, again, tracking these numbers and knowing this data, now, like, the only way that I can grow is I either have to get more than 10 people to come into my school, or I have to get those 10 people that are leaving to go to 5.
Right.
And now my school will grow again. But, like, not tracking that data, not knowing, it's really hard to know.
That's a hard one to get school owners to do. Like, I don't know if it's I call it the ostrich syndrome. That's where they stick their head in the sand, hoping that when they lift it out, things are going to change.
Yep.
Like, they don't want to know their numbers. And like I said, I tell my clients, if we could just tweak your retention by 30% in a positive direction, imagine year end, what that would look like as far as your numbers go. And everyone thinks that, you talk to them, I'm sure you get this. My retention's through the roof. Like,
everybody's retention's perfect.
Exactly. No one's quitting. But I always would say this, even at the Super Show, I'd be there and I go, like, how many people do you get a month? Well, how many students did you have when you started? How come if you're getting 20 people a month, you're not adding on 240 a year? Yep. And your numbers aren't up. It's just a very elusive thing for people. They don't like to admit to it.
Well, and it's, truthfully, it's not sexy. Like, like, keeping people is not sexy. Like, I got 25 new, 40 new students. Like, that's the sexy thing to say. But, like, I kept 100% of my people, it's not a sexy thing to talk about.
For Dwayne and I, it is.
Yeah, right.
We're like martial art nerds when it comes to numbers like that. We love numbers, and we try to get our listeners to love them as much. And we say that all the time. It might not be so sexy, but it's something that's so important, right? And it's like, or else you just kind of in that hamster wheel day in and day out, repeating the same process and mistakes over and over again.
Yeah, and again, it's a numbers thing, right? So, like, at 50 students, it might not be a big deal. At 100, maybe it's not even a big deal. But as you get to 600, 500 students, like, now if you have 10%, you're losing 50, 60 people a month.
Yeah,
like, that's a big deal, and that's where you're going to figure it out. So, like, using these retention strategies early and figuring them out and putting systems and processes in place, like, hey, you get a handwritten card, once you sign up, you get a We do member events. We do an exit interview that we can try to resell them back into the program. So all of these strategies, if you start dialing them in when you have 30 students, when you have 50 students, you get to 150, you get to 200, they're already dialed in, their systems are already in place and running, and your program's running a lot smoother.
I love that. That's great. So we also had, speaking of that, we had other strategies. So you had the first one we did, which we covered, which was basically profit killers. Then we had 3 ways to grow the business. So one of them, financially growth, was weekly billing, was one great idea. But do you have any others?
Yeah. So, well, really, when it comes to the kind of, I call them the 3 Mo's. Mo money, mo time, and mo people. So the idea of this is like, those are the only 3 ways that you can grow your business. You either have to get people to spend more money, you have to get them to stay longer, or you have to get more people to come in the door. So again, it's kind of like that retention issue. That's going to be they're staying longer with your program. Obviously more people, that's what everybody focuses on. That's just getting more people in the door, signing them up. And really the other one is kind of getting them to spend more money with you. And that actually goes into one of the profit killers also, is the idea of like, a lot of people will set up a program based on, hey, it's $159 a month, but that's one program. But if you want to do 2 programs, it's $179 a month. So they tack on just a little bonus. And they're like, oh, but I want everybody to do 2 programs a month.
Right.
In reality, you could just make it $199 or, $200 a month for, whatever classes that you want. And if you're going to have an add-on, the add-on needs to be substantial, right? So for us, when you think about it, and jiu-jitsu is a big kind of like private lesson thing. Like a lot of people will do private lessons. I'm sure in most martial arts, they're doing some kind of private lesson or like test prep or something like that. And so I try to get people actually not to teach private lessons. I think it's a waste of time and money. I like to do what we call like semi-privates. So instead of, say, like for jiu-jitsu, typically it's going to be $100 to $150 an hour for a private lesson. So what I teach people to do is not do that, right? Because I can make more money selling a membership. I can make more money teaching a group of 4 people, a semi-private. I can charge them pretty much the same amount, $400 for, each individual 100. And in jiu-jitsu, like you're out there typically like rolling and training with the people. So you're getting beat up. And if you're doing 4, 5, 6 of these a week, it's taking a toll on your body. So you get a group of 4. I don't have to train with anybody. I can teach and I make more money. So having add-ons that make sense, right? So just like Dwayne's health coaching kind of stuff. What we do is we do a bolt-on kind of health coaching idea. Our normal membership stays that $49 price point. So to get health coaching, it's going to be either, if it's just kind of like overarching health coaching, we add another $49 a week membership. So we go from a $200 membership to a $400 a month membership. If it's more private training or really kind of like one-on-one kind of coaching, then that will go up to about $100 a week. So now we've gone from, $49 a week to $149 a week. But everybody has what we call like a whale, right? Like you have people, we have people that have paid $12,000 for a lifetime membership. They do 3 privates a week. They buy everything that we offer as clothing or tickets or whatever. These people just don't mind spending thousands of dollars a month on martial arts. So you want to have a program that they can buy. The people that want to spend an extra $20, just offer them a t-shirt. They'll buy something. Yeah. You want to have a program that's $200. Then you want to have a program that's $500. Then you want to have a program that's $1,000 a month. Right. And each one of these kind of upsells is going to be a different tier of person that wants to spend that kind of money in the martial arts.
Right.
Typically what it is, it's a $150 membership, and you can add another $20 if you want unlimited classes, or if you want, 2 locations or whatever it might be.
Right.
So having those upsells that actually are substantial, that actually make a difference in your business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wonder, trying to think, play devil's advocate and think of the questions. Dwayne, what do you think some people might be thinking, school owners hearing this? Because it's like sometimes way out of their mentality. So do you have...
I think just the price points that you brought up are way over, a lot of the conventional thinking of martial arts. And so that's where I guess I fall back to what I said before. You really have to believe in yourself and what you're producing. And obviously, if you're not producing something that is well and above that price point, you probably shouldn't be charging it. So you got to make sure that you got a quality product that's actually delivering over that amount of money.
Well, and it also goes back to solving a problem for somebody. And that's kind of like you have to be able to sell stuff in a way. Because health coaching is a perfect example. Like, hey, they're learning martial arts, but they're still heavy. Like, okay, well, let's start focusing a little bit on that diet. Like, you're still going to be paying for martial arts. You're still doing that, but now we're going to give you a diet plan. We're going to give you a nutrition plan. We're going to give you a recipe book. We're going to teach you how to cook this stuff. And this stuff can all be automated. Like, it doesn't have to be, you actually writing stuff down or whatever. Like, this can all be automated. And then now it's like you're solving another problem. Like, if you think about, I like the private lesson thing because most academies, their owners aren't making a lot of profit. So what they're doing is they're subsidizing their profit or their payroll or their cash in pocket by private lessons.
Yeah.
Right. So like I used to play a lot of poker and I would talk to these guys and they're like, oh, I'm a professional poker player. I'm like, are you? Like, I see you dealing like 5 days a week at these different events. Like, this was kind of before casinos were everywhere. And I would see them and we'd be at home games and they would be there dealing. And I'm like, if you're a professional poker player, why are you dealing? Because that's how I make my money also. Like, oh, well, if you're a professional poker player, you make your money playing poker, right? You don't make money dealing. And it's the same thing with like a business owner. Like, oh, I'm a professional martial art owner, school owner, but I have to do private lessons on the side to make enough money to live.
Right.
You're not really a business owner. You're a teacher still.
Yeah.
So what I look at is like, if you have people that are spending, just say their normal membership is $150 and they're coming in, they're spending $100 a month or a week on privates. Like, that is when 150 plus another 400, that's a $550 membership that they're paying or that they're willing to pay.
Yeah.
If you can figure out what that problem is that they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
So like, the people are in their schools, they're just not willing to kind of go in front of them and ask them, well, hey, what do you want? Like, I'll design a program for you.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest fear from school owners. Like, I find, like, especially the school owners that are starting off, they're caught in this mindset like, oh, I don't want to sound like a money grab. I don't want to upsell. I hate to sell. I hate to, I don't want to look bad. And meanwhile, that's their own personal thing, right? That's not really, it's not really the truth. Maybe somebody out there might say that that's what it is. But I mean, overall, if you're giving them something for the value and you're changing their lives, I mean, people will do anything. Dwayne, what do you do? Like, in your health coaching, when people are like, wow, that's too expensive, I mean, that, because I'm sure a lot of people, I know I recommended someone to you and they were like, wow, I just can't afford to be. I'm like, you can't afford not to do it because you're not going to be healthy. You're overweight, you're sick, you're going to die. Like, you know, how do you?
Well, I mean, you turn the question back on them. I mean, you just ask the question back to them. So they say it's, well, that's quite expensive. And you say, that's quite expensive.
Yeah.
And I let them have to justify why they're saying it's expensive. But prior to that, I mean, I've already talked to them about, how much they're spending on groceries, how much they're eating out, their Starbucks runs, their Dunkin' Donut hits. And so I actually already have the majority of that information before that even becomes an obstacle.
Right.
So,
And I think in sales in general, if you can figure out the pain point, if you can kind of like, talk the pain point and get them to realize that they can't do it without you. Like, in health coaching is like a great example, because typically there's going to be three things that they can't do, like, or that they've failed in the past. Like, they either don't know what to do when it comes to like working out. They don't know what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat it. Or they can't keep themselves accountable or on mission. Right. So It's like, you ask them and then they're going to tell you which one of those problems typically they have.
or all.
And typically it's going to be one of the three or all three. And then you just say like, oh, well, like, I can solve all those for you. And this is how we're going to do it. Does that sound good? And then when it goes to, like, one thing that I like to do when it comes to like, if they say like, well, that's expensive. Like, I don't answer a question. I don't answer unless they ask a question. So like, a lot of times somebody will say, oh, that's expensive. And then they start thinking about it and they're like, well, I could probably move this around, or they'll literally talk themselves into the thing that they want, because them saying that this is expensive is really not a question. If they were to say something to the point of like, oh, is there other ways to pay for that? Like you said, it's, $5,000. Like, is there a different way that I could pay for that? Like, that's a question. Oh yeah, we can split up into 2 payments. We can do a weekly payment. Like, now I can answer a question that they have. But
Right.
most of the time, if somebody wants to do it, if you've sold them on the idea and they feel like they can get the result or the status that they're looking for, they'll talk themselves into it.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times that, I've had people come back. Like, I've got a lady who's on program. She's down 49 pounds already since the beginning of the year. And I talked to her maybe 9 months to a year ago. And then she went to the doctor at the end of the year, and the doctor said, you need to lose 45 pounds now. Money wasn't an obstacle at that point.
Yep.
And now she's like, man, I should have done this back when I originally talked to you. So, I mean, I can't tell how many times I've had people come back and now that they're feeling even more miserable, they found the money.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, we all know that people have things that they prioritize over what you're telling them that your cost of your program is. Like, everyone's got an iPhone or an Android, and everyone's wearing nice sneakers. Every household, even the most most households that are in a depressed area, have big screen TVs in every room. You know, it really is a matter of priority. I've had a few people just recently say, oh, I can't afford it. And I said, I don't think I did my job at explaining how beneficial we are. And like, oh, we just don't have the money. And I'm like, well, we have to find a way. And I gave them a whole bunch of suggestions. One of them came in and said, wow, I used your suggestion, which was ask the grandparents if they wanted to chip in, because there's a single mom on her own. And the grandparents said, you know what, we'll pay for the tuition for you. And she's like, I never even thought of asking them. So just by giving people options at times, changes their whole entire yes or no.
Well, look, I mean, we're all in sales, whether we want to believe it or not, we're in sales. And closing the sales, right? Closing the sale. One of the meanings of close basically is to bring two things together. And so that's exactly what you did, is you gave them options to help them bring those two things together.
Right. Yeah.
Love that. Bridging that gap for sure.
So we're running close on time because we started late, but maybe if you don't mind, we'll stay for like is it okay with you guys? Another 5 minutes or whatever?
Yep.
So you also we talked about that with, it was like, why, 3 ways to grow your business. But the last thing that we wrote about was like, why do schools plateau? Like, why do you find in general people get where they are and then they can't grow beyond where they are? And you mentioned that one was mindset.
One was mindset. And I think tracking those numbers is important. Like we talked about, knowing your people that are coming in, knowing the people that are going out. Typically that's kind of that effect is what happens is they get to a point where they don't have the acquisition process or they don't have the retention strategies in place.
Right.
So it needs to be kind of both sides of the street. And like I said, retention typically is something that's not sexy, that people don't want to spend time on. They want to spend time getting new people, but they don't have the ability to get a lot of people. So kind of figuring out a strategy that's going to get a ton of people in the door. And then obviously a sales process to go along with that, so you can actually get the sale there. So kind of really focusing on those two pieces, right? One is going to be acquisition and dialing in kind of that one acquisition source that you're really good at. And then you go all in on that. This month I spent $6,000 on advertising. That's a lot of money to a lot of people. To me, that was like kind of a slower month. Like we should have probably spent more. And it's the idea of like, if you have a system and a process that can get people in the door, but you can get your money back quickly. We do the upfront offer for the 600 upfront for people. So 6,000 is a lot, but I only have to sell 10 people into that program to get all of that 6,000 back. So having a system that I can acquire students really for free. So like talk about Dan Kennedy, like this is a Dan Kennedy thing. Like the person that can spend the most money on advertising is a person that's going to win. Right. So if I can outspend all of my competition in my area, and again, like I don't do a lot of Google stuff. I don't do a lot of TikTok. I don't do a lot of YouTube. Like I focus hard. All of my money basically is spent on Facebook, Instagram. because I know how to do it. I'm really good at it, and I can get a ton of people to opt in. From there, I can get them in the door. From there, I can close them. But I just know that if I spend $6,000, I'm going to make 20 or 30,000 in upfront sales. It's just, I've been doing it for too long. I know the process and I have the system down for it. So just focusing on that one area, put all of my money into that one area. Typically I'm promoting one program and I get all the eyeballs in my area that are on Facebook looking for it. I literally go to like the gas station, you know, I'll go to McDonald's, like whatever. Be like, hey, aren't you that guy on Facebook all the time? Like, you know, I've 15 different ads going pretty much every month, and it just works. So having that kind of acquisition process and being able to kind of get enough, right? You got to get more than you're losing. Like that's the main thing. If you can get more than you're losing, you're going to make money, and you're never going to stall out on that plateau.
That's great, though. That's a great answer. And it's funny for people, I think that they're penny wise, dollar foolish, where they're always like, hey, I don't want to, you know, spend too much money. And I find too, like with a lot of people advertise on Facebook, they will spend X amount of money, get X amount of students, forget that they got the students. The next month they're going to say, hey, I didn't get as many. But those 10 students in perpetuity could pay for your marketing.
Oh yeah.
The rest, if you think about it that way, if you just labeled their name, Facebook marketing by their name, every month they're paying for your advertising. But
yeah, they, you know, if you can break, and that's what I tell all my guys, like if you're breaking even on your advertising, meaning like, hey, I spent 5,000 and I made 5,000. Like even if you just break even on that upfront money,
right,
you just keep spending more money until you don't break even. If you don't break even, then you got to go back and you figure it out. But typically, like our guys are making anywhere from 5 to 1 to 10 to 1 on their money, like spending on Facebook. So if you can break even or make money, you just spend more money to grow faster.
Yeah.
There's no other thing that you have to think about.
And that's interesting, right? Your whole concept is to accelerate the growth by chasing it with finances, which most people don't do.
No, most people will like run ads. They'll get 5, 10 people, whatever it is, and then they turn their ads off.
Right.
And so for me, what happens is, and that's why, you know, typically people, when you see them, they got 20 people one month, they got 5 people the next. They got 15 people, they get 7. For me, I know that if I just keep my ads going, I'm going to get my 20, 30, whatever it is every month, like clockwork. And I don't have these ups and downs and valleys where like, oh man, I didn't get anybody this month. I gotta do something different next month.
Yeah.
No, you just keep your ads going. You get the people just constantly coming in.
Yeah.
If you were to track any data, you look the months you do, run an ad, you probably made more money that month than the next month. When you turn an ad off, you make less money that month and the month after it.
I don't understand why anybody would turn it off, but that's just, me.
It happens all the time, right?
All the time.
No, I know, but I guess, and then maybe this is one of the profit killers, if you will, but we get complacent. And that's part of that complacency where we're like, okay, I'm satisfied right now, or I'm overwhelmed because I don't have the systems in place to handle those 20 people. And so now I've got to, I got to work all these people, and then I got to stop everything before I can.
Yeah. That alone is one of the biggest problems with retraining the mind, is that feeling of like, oh my God, I'm doing it all and I don't have time and energy for more, when they just got to find a way to get that done on its own, automation, whatever it may be, hire someone and then do more in the other area. Yeah.
Most people are scared of operations. So, we see this. So we bring people into the program. We're like, hey, we want to get your ads running. We want to get going. And they're like, oh, well, I want to make sure like I got everything printed out. I want to, this, and this, and this.
Oh, yeah.
And my thing is like, no, like sales comes first. Operations will figure it out. Like you got to sell, you got to get people in the door, you got to make money. And then you have money to be able to figure out these operations, pay somebody, print stuff out, do whatever.
It's like Michael Masterson's book, Ready, Fire, Aim.
Yep. You got to sell.
Yeah. That's awesome. Very, very cool.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on and chatting with us today. And if anybody's interested in your program, how do they get a hold of you?
So I actually have a free course that I'm actually giving out too that talks a lot about this stuff. There's a lot of other stuff in there, some on mindset, some on tactics, some on strategies. So it's completely free. You go in. It is limited though, so you only have a certain amount of time. I think it's 30 days to to digest the information. But it's completely free course, no obligation, no nothing. So if anybody wants that, it's academykings.com/master plan. And we talk about, all of this stuff, profit killers, the ways to grow your academy. Like I said, some mindset stuff, some strategies and tactics as well.
Well, do me a favor. Put that in our chat, you and I's chat. Send me all that information, whatever you want, and I'll make sure it's in the show notes as well. But I cut you off. Continue with that.
No, but it's basically like the exact roadmap that we use for academies. So, the strategies, the tactics, everything is in there start to finish. So it really works well. And that's how we basically grow $1 million academies or, $50,000 lifestyle academies that people are traveling all over.
Right. So again, the website is
academykings.com/master plan.
Master plan, PLAN.
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, great.
I'll drop it in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your knowledge, and we're happy always to have you on, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. We'll
right.
have you on again soon.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
There.
All right, guys. Check out our Facebook posts. Go to schoolownertalk.com to get all of the past episodes, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management Group at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your systems. AddHealthCoaching.com, helping school owners create a whole nother revenue stream for their school. We will see you